Good morning, everybody, and good afternoon, Asia. Back to this World Conference session. Sorry, I'm slightly late today. I was extremely held up just now at the college, so a lot of issue because of this pandemic. So students' problems, internship problems. Hi, Hanna, how are you? Good to see everyone is here. Yes, I hope everyone's healthy. Okay. Now, today's session is exercise and the social aspect. And we have Professor Hanna here from Finland. She is going to chair the entire session. Like I said, I don't like to apologize early in the opening, especially towards the other side is early in the morning. All right, without any further delay, apart from these 5 minutes, I'm going to pass the floor entirely to Hanna to chair the sessions, and then probably I'll see you all during the closing of the day. All right, have a good one.
Hello, everyone, and greetings from Finland. My name is Hanna Vehmas, and I come from the University of Jyväskylä. As we all know, in this conference, it would have been more than wonderful to meet everyone face to face and to have the chance to get together with old and new friends and colleagues and to share these presentations with real live audiences. But as we all know, the world has rapidly changed everywhere over the course of this year, and therefore we have now possibilities at the moment to only meet this way, but it's much better than not meet at all. So therefore I am very happy and honored that I am able to give you this presentation in this digital form. I'm a sports sociologist by background, and my core idea was to speak about something else, about social impact, social factors, socioeconomic factors of sport and physical activity, based on a few recent studies that we have conducted here in Finland, in Jyväskylä. But then I realized that as the situation is as it is here and elsewhere, and as an academic, as a citizen, I felt that I rather share this session with you by sharing some of the acute effects of the COVID pandemic on the sports sector in Finland. This is something that I believe we all are very interested in, how this pandemic has affected our field, our industry, our sector in sport and physical activity in different parts of the world. Before I go any further, just a few words about myself. For those of you who I don't know, who do not know me from earlier, like I said, I'm a sports sociologist by background, and for over 20 years now, I have worked at the Faculty of Sport and Health Sciences at the University of Jyväskylä in Finland. I have a master's degree background in general sociology, and a little over 10 years ago, some roughly 11 years ago, I completed my PhD in sport sociology, particularly on sport-related tourism. For the last 15 years or so, I have worked especially in international programs in our faculty, working with international students, master degree students, PhD students, etc. Wonderful work, and I truly hope that we all have a chance to get together in international environments face to face soon enough. I also act as the General Secretary of the European Association for Sociology of Sport. And I have been very honored to be part of the scientific board of the World Conference on Exercise Medicine for the last two years or so. My research interest is in sport participation. I'm interested in why people participate in sport physical activities in Finland, in my home country, of course, but also elsewhere in the world, and how the culture around us is influencing our sport participation behavior. Generally, I'm also interested in societal significance of sport. What is the role of sport and physical activity in different cultures and countries in different parts of the world? Sport tourism, also nowadays, the private commercial sector of sport has been in my areas of interest. So that's just briefly something about myself. And in the picture there, the white building is my faculty building in Finland, and I would be more than happy to invite you to this building, to this city soon enough. Before I continue presenting some of the effects that the COVID pandemic has had in my country, and particularly in the sports sector, I just want to share some facts about Finland, because I really believe that before we can start evaluating, before we can start talking about different details about anything at all, we need to know the background of the country. And Finland, as some of you might know, is located in northern part of the Europe. So it's already, if I look outside from my window now, I can see that the winter is already on its way. We are a small nation with population only about 5.5 million. But by area, the country is relatively large. What is interesting, I think, here as a background of my presentation is that Finland is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. It is a democratic parliament. The life expectancy of individuals, particularly women, is one of the highest in the world. And in general, we consider our country a welfare state where the public sector, the state, the government is subsidizing many of the services, sports services, among them to the citizens. So this is something that is good to know as a background information. About organization of sport then, as is the case also in many other countries around the world, also in Finland, but maybe even more clearly in Finland, sport is organized around three sectors that in this picture look like separate sectors from each other, but in reality they are of course intervened very, very strongly and actually more and more nowadays. So public sector, which covers the state and municipalities, which are a little over 300 in Finland, of course is not working alone. The role of public sector is, of course, to provide subsidies to the sports services. So in the case of Finland, our government, state subsidizes municipalities, which are the towns and the villages, for example, in sport facility construction and maintenance. We know that we have, for example, major sport facilities, let's say swimming halls, sport halls, stadia, ice hockey stadia, etc., that would otherwise be very costful to build and to maintain. So that's one of the roles of the state to make sure that individuals, citizens, residents have a possibility to utilize these sport facilities. In addition to public sector, then we also have the voluntary or civil or civic or non-profit sector. And in Finland, this means sport clubs. Most of the sport clubs in Finland are so-called non-profit associations. So they are not private companies. We only have about 5% of our sport clubs that are actually acting as or operating as private companies. And the role of the sport clubs is, of course, then to provide these actual sport services to citizens in different disciplines, in different forms of physical activity. And this is traditionally also a very, very important sector of sport and organization of sport in Finland. But by no means this sector functions alone without these two other sectors. And then finally, the third sector is so-called private or commercial sector, which means that these are now private companies that operate on the logic of profit making as any other companies. And in Finland, these are mostly fitness clubs whose number has risen also in Finland tremendously during the last, let's say, 20 years. But this also means ski resorts, sport equipment retail sales, media, and for example, ice hockey clubs. Ice hockey is in many ways, or it could be labeled in many ways as the only true professional sport in Finland. And most of the ice hockey teams, at least, operate on a profit-making commercial principles. So, just as a background, it's good to know that this is how sport is organized in Finland. And this, of course, then later on, when I tell you something about the COVID effects, is important to know. This is a framework of the sports structure in Finland in a bit more detailed way. I don't go through it so much at the moment, but you can see in this figure the same basic sectors that I just introduced in my previous slide. And then you can also see that sport is organized, of course, in various regional levels. It's at the national level, regional level, and then the local level, which in most cases refers to municipalities and then to sport clubs. But now my main presentation today is based on a report by the government of Finland, by the Ministry of Education and Culture on sports and the Sports Council in particular in this ministry, about the situation of municipal sport services, sport clubs, sport organizations, sport companies, and training and research organizations during the first wave. Unfortunately, we are already talking about the second wave, but during the March-May this year. And just as a general picture of the key restrictions concerning moving and physical activity in Finland during the pandemic, during the spring, as in many other parts of the world, particularly in Europe, this whole idea of restrictions began in the middle of March, when free movement restrictions were launched in Finland, and public events, for example, public events over 500 people were banned, and also organizing sport events was interrupted at that time. So everyone in Finland remembers this date, March 12th, which was a Thursday. Following Monday, after the weekend, followed by these very first restrictions, our government, our state, declared a state of emergency in Finland, which is a very, very unique situation in peacetime in our country. And at that time, for example, citizens, 70 plus senior citizens, were advised to stay in guarantee conditions. Also, more and more recommendations were launched for remote work in the public sector. There were no bannings at that time, but there were recommendations. And for example, at the academia, we totally stepped into a remote work at that time. Nobody went to the university faculty anywhere anymore. Following one day, the restrictions became more and more obvious in our daily lives, and citizens were advised to avoid any unnecessary staying in public places, and also public sport facilities, for example, public swimming halls. Many fitness centers were closed at that time. So a major change in our daily life, as you can imagine. Also, recommendations were given for private commercial sport facilities to interrupt their activities. And this was seen particularly in fitness clubs. Then following that week, as you can see, a lot of things happened during that week. Gatherings of over 10 people were banned. Schools turned into remote teaching with some minor exceptions. And this banning was ended in middle of May. So for roughly 2 months, all of our school children were in remote schooling. And then following still until the end of March, the district of Uusimaa, which covers the capital Helsinki with its metropolitan surroundings, plus some other towns in this Uusimaa county, were restricted by any unnecessary traffic. And this was a very exceptional situation in Finland, that in fact, for example, if I wanted to travel to Helsinki after March 28 until May 14, I was not allowed to do that. So it was a very unusual situation. But then little by little, as we know, the epidemic started to lose its forces, and little by little, by the beginning of June, many of the restrictions were ended, and the society was opened up again for many things. And by the time we were in the beginning of June, which is a typical summer month, and month of July, Finland was opening up again. But this is just as a short background for my presentation. Okay, so what happened in the public sector, basically? The pandemic had an impact on sport operators that are funded through tax revenues, gambling proceeds, and other forms of income, for example, membership fees. The rather strongly. And rapid adjustment measures have generally helped to overcome the final challenges that arose during the acute phase of this crisis. So government was actually, the state was helping municipalities and clubs in various ways. And as a summary here, it can be said that the most significant ever effects of the COVID will be seen later, as we know. Municipal sports services, which are an important part of the public sector, was of course hit relatively badly. Municipal sports services largely discontinued or were closed during the spring, excluding outdoors and some nature facilities. And the revenue losses caused by the epidemic during March to May in mainland Finland was estimated to amount to a total of 22 to 23 million euros. And of course, as I was saying earlier, it is very likely that the most significant and long-term effect will be seen only later. Mainly, core municipal sports services, face-to-face instruction, counseling, indoor facilities were discontinued or closed during the time. But then on the other hand, what happened in Finland was that since people were not able to participate in their regular sport activities, indoor activities, club membership activities, they started to find the natural environments again, and the amount of people moving in the nature outdoors was actually increased. So if there was something slightly good about the pandemic, was the fact that people started to move outdoors. Also, of course, as elsewhere around the world, these sports services were replaced by various remote sports services. Also, the pandemic situation was utilized by investments in repairing and maintenance of sport facilities and conditions. And as also is the case in many other places around the world, this situation significantly affected utilization of the digitalization in municipal sports services. However, the loss of income was relatively large, about 17% of the budgeted for 2020, and it equals, as I was saying, 22 to 23 million euros in Finland. And the decrease in cost during the same period was only 2%. In Finland, the attitude, however, was such that municipalities, they tried to very, very strongly, at least during the first wave, to adjust their economies, mainly with other means than firing or laying off people. So this was the case in municipalities. So 98% of the municipalities had not fired, had not permanently laid off people, but rather relocated their personnel to other areas of administration and perhaps interrupted maintenance of some sports services. Also, one of the central means of supporting sport clubs during the epidemic by the municipalities was that they refrained from collecting, for example, rent for the facilities that they would have otherwise done. So there was this general willingness not to lay off people, not to cause too much harm to families and to people. Then what happened in sport clubs, which is the voluntary non-profit sector in Finland, most of the so-called association-based, so sport clubs, this is the non-profit sport clubs, survived the spring restrictions with relatively few problems. However, about 1/5 of all of the association-based clubs faced significant problems. And the common problems in these clubs were related to high fixed costs, for example, in facility maintenance, and fast drop in revenues, and the lack of financial buffers, because some of the clubs already were in a relatively poor financial situation before the pandemic, and they did not have these so-called financial buffers, which would have then kept them alive during these difficult times. About the same sector, civic, voluntary, sport club sector, 80% of the association-based sport clubs managed corona restrictions with minor problems, and 20% with some serious problems. And the financial losses of the clubs was in total about 76 million euros. And association-based clubs mainly adjusted quickly to this situation by creating new forms of activities, such as independent training of the athletes, remote coaching, and digital interaction. However, most reserve resources, the buffers so-called, were used up during the spring, and of course now we are facing spring and summer, and now we are facing a new situation if the pandemic continues, as unfortunately it looks like, at least here in Europe. Within the non-profit sector, we also see the domain organizations, and the largest effect of the epidemic to the domain organizations are related to the top-level sports, events, training camps, and competitions. As you know, we have not been able to organize major sport events in similar ways as before, and this has caused, naturally, financial problems. The domain organizations have aimed to support their member clubs, of course. About 35 of them have supported their member clubs by lowering membership fees temporarily, and 18 of them have granted additional subsidies to the clubs. Yes, and as I was saying earlier, also in this sector, the situation has been such that until the very last moment, the clubs have aimed not to lay off people, not to fire people, and this is also has been the case in association-based sport clubs and non-profit sector. So only 6% of the organizations have needed to fire people during these times. And now finally, moving on in my presentation to the private commercial sports sector, which obviously has been affected mostly during this pandemic. Many of the sport companies have completely discontinued their activities. Many of the fitness clubs have been closed fully or partially, temporarily during the springtime, and team sports such as ice hockey is really facing major challenges at the moment, especially now if the pandemic continues. So in many respects, sport companies appear to be suffering more on average than companies overall in Finland. And the data concerning this field consisted mainly fitness, health gym and CrossFit clubs and centers, sports training, personal training and coaching, horse riding stables, dance education studios, and outdoor and indoor facilities. And in more than half of the companies, epidemic had significantly weakened the financial situation of the company. And in almost half of the companies, the sales had dropped 52 to 75%. Not more than that, but this still is already a lot. And slightly over half of the companies had initiated layoffs, which means temporarily laying off people, but only 7% had actually fired personnel. But this was the situation during the springtime, and now, unfortunately, we are looking at a little bit worse situation at the moment. Like I was saying, sport-related companies were more badly hit financially than companies in general, and this, of course, is explained by the fact that sport, as we know, is very clearly a physical form of activity and includes events, large events, which were banned. But of course, there were other sectors, cultural events, that also were hit very, very badly as a result of the epidemic. Some private companies, especially those in outdoors environments, horse riding stables, golf courses, for example, were least affected. And also in private companies, the compensating business models, remote video, small group services were of course developed. But no company has really benefited from the pandemic when it comes to private sport sector. And then finally, briefly, something about education and research in sport. Pandemic and restrictions somewhat weakened the operations and economies of education and research organizations, but fortunately not as badly as many other sectors in society. The most significant effort has been moving into remote education, video teaching, electronic learning environments, something like this. What I am doing, what we are doing here now, that instead of meeting face-to-face in international conferences, we are doing our presentations in a remote way, by which we manage, but which of course we know is not the best solution at all. As far as university students, the epidemic has not really affected students' course assessments or graduation timetables, but of course it has interrupted some research projects, and it has required plenty of extra new additional work from scholars and from students. And fortunately, educational institutions have not needed to stabilize, to adjust their activities in any ways, at least not during the spring, because of the pandemic, for example, by laying off people. And in general, the central effect, as we know, is and has been the utilization of the digital and remote working methods. Something, if there is something good, something useful as a result of the pandemic so far, is that our digital remote services have been developed very much. We talk about these digital lives in many parts of the world, which is a good thing in many ways. But of course, we all miss physical contact, meeting people face to face, all of these other wonderful natural ways to interact with people and to be with people, and of course, in this sense especially, we all hope that the pandemic is over soon enough. Right, I thank you all very much. This is a picture from Lapland from last summer, where I had a chance to visit. I wish you all good health, stay healthy, and more than anything else, I hope that we will meet face to face soon enough. Thank you very much. All right, we got some technical challenges here during my presentation, and I apologize also on my behalf that it must have been a little boring just to listen and look at one slide only. But as I wrote in the chat, I hope that you will have a chance to take a look at my PowerPoint slides later on. So hopefully that will clarify my presentation a bit. Also, I apologize for taking a few minutes over time of your time. So, of course, if you have any questions now, I'm happy to answer. And if not, to keep up the schedule, the timing of the schedule, we could also move on to the second speaker of this session.
I have my own technical challenges, so I'm happy to be patient here. It's just good to be here and present. First of all, I should introduce myself. I'm Miranda Thurston, Professor of Public Health here in Norway. You may be able to tell from my accent that I'm actually originally from England, but I have been working in Norway for the last 9 years, which has been a very interesting experience. I should also thank Hanna, because it was when I met Hanna back in 2019, the spring of 2019, at a seminar in Norway here, that she invited me to make a contribution to this conference. So thank you for that. And unfortunately, I couldn't make it last year. But now it's good to be able to deliver my paper at this remote conference and meet some people. Hanna said something about Finland. That's quite relevant to my presentation because I'm going to talk at some part in the conversation about the Nordic countries. Yeah. Okay. For me, as a professor of public health, it is, of course, very, very encouraging to be invited to a World Conference on Exercise Medicine. And I hope some of what I say, it may be quite a departure point from the usual kinds of presentations at such a conference. But I think it's really a very important perspective, and I'm really pleased Hanna has been able to put together this kind of series of presentations. So what I'm going to cover in this presentation, first of all, I'm going to say something about as a challenge really to the individual behavioural explanations that have tended to dominate physical activity promotion. I'm also then going to have a look at why some countries are more physically active than others. And I'm going to do that by looking at what we call in public health the social determinants of health, and more specifically, the social determinants of physical activity. And then I'll try to conclude by looking at the question of whether there is scope for optimism to better promote physical activity among populations. And like most things, it's probably some good and some bad. But in public health, you always have to remain optimistic that things could be better. So I'm going to present my, my paper on this particular subject. So I want to start by drawing your attention to an international survey of policymakers in 2014, who reported that more than 90% of policymakers believed personal motivation was a strong or very strong influence on the rise in obesity. Individual behavioural explanations, such as those resting on individual motivation, choice, and responsibility, can also be found in the physical activity promotion field. This remains the case even though the influence of social and cultural factors on health behaviour, such as physical activity in general, have been widely recognised for some time. In this paper, I adopt a public health perspective, and importantly, that shifts the focus from individuals to the population level and to the social determinants of physical activity. The key message of my paper is that there is, theoretically at least, scope for change if we ask the right questions and focus on the right things. I want to start by clarifying some important issues relating to the terminology of physical activity, and then I'll offer a brief overview of the social patterning of physical activity at global, national, and subnational levels. And I do this to illustrate how patterns between and within countries can reveal differences in population levels of physical activity. The key here is to think about populations, or societies we might say, and social norms. To paraphrase Jeffrey Rose, we should ask the question why some countries or societies are more physically active than others, and why within those countries or societies, some population subgroups are more active than others. I'll endeavour to give some insight into those questions by pinpointing what I take to be the chief characteristics of physically active societies, such as Finland. By way of conclusion, I'll set out some ideas for how those characteristics might inform our thinking of how better to facilitate physical activity promotion in populations. First of all, I want to say something about conceptualizing physical activity as not as a behavior, but as a habitual social practice. So I'm going to move away from the dominant psychological behavioural explanations. Many of you have probably seen this slide. There have been considerable increases in our knowledge about physical activity. But what I would say is it doesn't seem to have made a great deal of difference in terms of how successful and effective we are in encouraging people to become more physically active. And I am going to concentrate on physical activity, although I will say something about sports participation as well later in the presentation. But by physical activity, I mean bodily movement produced by skeletal muscles and resulting in energy expenditure beyond basal metabolic rate, the standard classical physiological definition. But noticeably, this broad category includes things like play, exercise, physical recreation, having fun, outdoors, as well as active travel, and so on, and physical activity during occupational activity. So I view this as a very broad category. Over the last 70 years or so, epidemiological and clinical evidence of the beneficial effects of physical activity on human health has increased, as this slide shows. Hence, its elevation as a public health priority in most high, middle and low income nations where things like overweight and obesity, sedentary behaviours are becoming more prominent. However, while many countries have physical activity plans, population levels of physical activity are not only failing to meet global recommendations, but in many countries are actually declining markedly. How can we explain that if physical activity is a public health best buy? Why isn't it being bought by people? So the departure point for this paper is to conceptualize physical activity and inactivity as what I call, and other people call, sociologists mainly, a social practice. That is to say, a phenomenon that emerges from and develops within a social and cultural context. Morris and Crawford's work on London bus drivers and conductors and bus conductors in the 1950s, along with Paffenbarger and Hale's study of Canadian longshoremen, offer relatively clear-cut illustrations not only of the power of physical activity to influence health, but also of the way in which the structure of the labour market, in particular, as well as society in general, shapes levels of physical activity, in this case, occupational physical activity. The labour market and the occupational profile of many countries was markedly different in the second half of the 20th century, however, when compared with the early decades of the 21st century. Many occupations involve considerable physical activity and consequently calorie expenditure. But also beyond the labour market, modes of travel, increasing urbanisation, activity in the home, particularly housework carried out by women predominantly, were also quite differently patterned compared to the 21st century. This means that the social and cultural context of earlier epochs meant that physical activity was inevitably integrated into people's daily lives through employment, through housework, through travel, through play, and so on. Subsequently, in many high-income countries, changes in the population distribution of physical activity have to a large extent been driven by societal changes in these domains, with the same pattern emerging in middle and low-income countries as economic development has unfolded. The digital revolution and its impact on work and leisure is but one more recent manifestation of a societal trend driving many populations towards increasing sedentariness. So, as this slide shows, conceptualizing physical activity as a social practice in terms of a social model of lifestyle rather than individual behavior draws on a sociological understanding of behaviours as developmental, that is to say, constructed and reconstructed throughout the life course in complex relational or social environments. Viewed this way, many of our health-related behaviours, including dispositions towards physical activity, can be understood as habit, rooted in our upbringing, and while very much open to change and adaptation, highly predictable nonetheless from our past conduct. In this view, Morris and Crawford, in 1958 actually, speculated that it was habitual physical activity that gave rise to beneficial cardiovascular outcomes. As I've indicated, the social and cultural context changes over time, and in doing so provides more or less fertile soil in which the seeds of population physical activity are sown. Put another way, using the terminology of public health, population levels of physical activity are best explained in relation to what we call in public health, the social determinants of health. And this slide shows a very famous, very simple but very famous model of the main determinants of health, which you can very easily apply to the main determinants of physical activity. As Lee et al. Argue in 2005, physical activity is a behaviour, they call it, that is inherently shaped by one's social environment, in that most activities occur within the context of families, communities, neighbourhoods, and the wider socio-economic and culture of countries, and increasingly in a globalized world. So we are but small individuals situated in this position of increasingly complex influences. Despite this, the tendency in physical activity promotion remains to conceptualize the problem of physical inactivity in individualistic terms, of declining motivation or a lack of willpower, rather than in terms of these wider social and cultural drivers. Yes. As Rogers et al. Argue in their 2018 paper in relation to obesity, it is unlikely that shifts in personal motivation can adequately account for the trends in declines in population physical activity. Yeah. They argue that it is implausible that each age, sex, and ethnic group with massive differences in life experience and attitudes had a simultaneous decline in willpower related to health, nutrition, or exercise. As this graph on the left implies, with this sudden uptick across all ages in men and women in all ethnic groups around 1975 in the US, gave rise to this sudden rise in obesity. It can't be explained by a sudden decline in motivation. In short, if we want to explain population trends, it is necessary to look beyond individual factors to the social, political, and cultural features of countries. And it is to these which I now want to turn. The World Health Organization has been at the forefront of advocating the need to develop physically active societies from which habitually physically active people develop and emerge. We may begin to better understand the complexity of social, political, and cultural characteristics of physically active and inactive cultures by comparing societies with differing levels of physical activity. This is a classic epidemiological and public health approach. Notwithstanding the difficulties of measuring physical activity at a population and subgroup level, especially for the purposes of comparison, there are an increasing number of studies with which to explore this issue. Countries differ in terms of levels of physical activity, sometimes quite markedly so. For example, a recent pooled analysis of 1.9 million people aged 18 and over from 168 countries examined the proportions of adults failing to meet the World Health Organization's physical activity guidelines of at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity PA per week. Guthold et al. Found that global age standardized physical activity proportion of adults not meeting the World Health Organization's guidelines was 27.5% in 2016, with a difference between the sexes of 8 percentage points. And as Althoff et al. Have noted, reduced activity in females contributes to a large proportion of the observed activity inequality. This paper shows variation between countries, was however marked, being highest in high-income Western countries. And this study included high, middle and low-income countries, socially, politically and culturally very diverse and at various stages of economic and human development. Nonetheless, it is pertinent to ask, why are some countries more physically active than others? And why do they also have large differences between the sexes? In relation to Europe, where the emerging importance of leisure time rather than occupational physical activity is important, studies of sports participation reveal large variations between countries. This is from the Eurostat 2018 data. These statistics are, of course, different from those cited above in relation to the prevalence of physical activity. Thus, high levels of sports participation do not necessarily reflect high levels of physical activity, counterintuitive as it may seem. In part, this might be because leisure time sports participation sits alongside an increasing tendency towards being sedentary in everyday life. Nonetheless, sports participation statistics are an indicator of the social and cultural significance of sport within populations and may well tell us something about habitual participation, if not the intensity and volume. From a public health perspective, this is important given the overall importance of trying to get more people to do something. Even within Europe, large differences between countries are evident. Yes, over 70% of people in Nordic countries and Austria reported they practice sport at least once a week, compared to around 10% in Bulgaria and Romania. In general, men practice sport more than women, but there are some notable exceptions. For example, in the 5 EU states where sports participation tends to be most commonplace, Denmark, Germany, Finland, Sweden, and Austria, more women than men take part in sport, with the gap in Denmark being the largest. Of further note is that in Denmark, the typical drop-off with age is not so clear-cut. 70% of those aged 65 and over report participating in sport at least once a week, compared to 81% of 15 to 24-year-olds. While it is not a member state of the EU, studies suggest that Norway is especially illustrative of the overall high population levels of participation. Strong participation by women and limited drop-off with age found in many Nordic countries in particular, including Finland. Alongside differences between countries, importantly, there are stark within country differences. Thus, within European countries such as England, physical activity displays what we call a social gradient, with those with the highest level of education or income or class most likely to be physically active. However, the magnitude of these differences varies by country. In Austria, again, for example, those with the highest level of education or income are 4 times more likely to be physically active than those with a low level of education or income. By contrast, in Slovenia, level of education as an indicator of social position has little significant effect. Furthermore, evidence from a study of Danish 11 to 15-year-olds suggests that social class differences in physical activity tend to emerge during childhood. And I think this is a particularly important point, that differences occur at an early stage. In other words, social practices or habits are developed at an early age, and different social groups begin to diverge from one another. The tendency for physical activity promotion to rely on individually oriented interventions, often of relatively short duration, has had very little impact on shifting population levels of physical activity in the desired direction. And this is especially true among those in the most disadvantaged groups who have most to gain. This is in part because of a lack of reach or penetration of interventions. But more importantly, it is because interventions leave undisturbed the social and cultural context within which patterns of physical activity have been developed and sustained. This is particularly the case with regard to social inequalities. Tess Kay in 2016 argued, policy has placed too much emphasis on the individual as an active agent and ignored the evidence of the constraints and barriers that can affect them. Furthermore, interventions may have the reverse effect of that desired, widening inequalities rather than reducing them because of differential effects across various population groups. With this somewhat brief overview, I have endeavoured to outline the argument that some populations and population subgroups display a tendency to be more physically active than others. And we need to understand that, not at the behavioural level in terms of levels of motivation, but at the level of differences between social and cultural characteristics of those populations. What then are the features and characteristics of societies where participation is high? It is worth reminding ourselves at this point that in both historical and contemporary terms, a country's level of economic development tends to be a major feature in explaining population levels of physical activity. The public health challenge then relates mainly to economically developed high-income countries, but not only, but where sedentary behaviour often sits alongside physical inactivity, and this has expanded. Yet still among these countries, some, specifically the Nordic countries, have continued to sustain high levels of sports participation during leisure time, and it is to these countries I now turn. Increasing attention has been given to the Nordic countries in recent years in public health because of their strong performance against a range of health and welfare indicators. It may not be as good as they would like, but they still stand out in health and physical activity terms. And studying them, as several people are increasingly doing, can give a range of sociological insights into why they do perform so well. These detailed analyses are instructive because they focus on the social, political and cultural context of Nordic countries. And they illustrate that, although different in a number of respects, Finland, Norway, Sweden, for example, they have a number of common attributes, some of which Hanna pointed out in her early slides that we did see, towards creating favourable circumstances for physical activity and sports participation. And I focus briefly on some of these now. Given what we know about more equal societies, and by that I mean narrower social inequalities in health and narrower social inequalities in physical activity. But also these reflect narrower inequalities in levels of income, levels of education, and levels of class. But more equal societies do better on a range of health and social measures. And here I draw in particular on the work of Wilkinson and Pickett. And it is perhaps unsurprising to find that the Nordic countries have good health indicators, including high levels of physical activities, because they have narrower social inequalities in health. The social democratic welfare state models that these countries are based on, although they also have some differences, have become associated with becoming increasingly economically prosperous and keeping social inequalities in income relatively small until quite recently, that is. With regard to physical activity and sports participation, several authors argue that such a commitment to equality, including importantly gender equality and inclusion, is a fundamental determinant of participation, a point made strongly by Fred Coulter and Ken Green and colleagues. Globally, there are inequalities in physical activity in relation to sex, age, class, level of income, level of education. The Nordic countries all stand out as having high levels of female participation, in which there has been convergence between the sexes, which contributes significantly to their overall high population prevalence. Inequalities in physical activity also tend to be small in relation to age, showing limited drop-off. However, a social gradient in participation is evident with regard to level of education and ethnicity. Veal also notes that more equal societies have more leisure time. Furthermore, while the welfare state directly supports leisure in various ways, it also explicitly links sport with public health goals. Taken together, these state actions produce a favourable context which tends to democratise physical activity participation. Nonetheless, there is evidently more to levels of sports participation and physical activity than economic prosperity and the rights that typify socio-democratic welfare states. As Green et al. Argue, the cultural traction of physical activities and sport is rooted in family, education, regional and national cultures, and as a result, the day-to-day lives of citizens of all ages is an important part of the explanation for high levels of participation. And I include this slide here of Sir Michael Marmot, who has consistently argued for the need to look at things in an everyday cultural, societal context and to look at things in terms of equity. In other words, habitual physical activity developed from the time children are first born can be developed as a social practice, especially through sports participation, but also through spending time in the outdoors, through friluftsliv, for example, as we call it in Norway, and active travel. The social significance of these practices and the values they embody need to be understood in an historical context and remain relevant to explaining the prevalence of social norms relating to physical activity in the Nordic countries. Importantly, and this is a point Michael Marmot makes, socialization within the family from a very young age endow children and young people with the necessary social contacts with sporty people and cultural capital, knowledge and skills, and so they can cultivate a physically active and sporting habitus, as we call it, contributing to national group habitus. And while the repertoire of activities is shifting among the population, cycling, running and walking still remain popular. These tend to also be the medium to low impact pastimes that are often socially inclusive and most likely to benefit physical and mental health. So I turn to my conclusion. To return to my starting point, the key message in this paper is that there needs to be a shift in population norms for physical activity. And this in turn requires a paradigm shift away from individually oriented explanations and interventions towards an emphasis on the social and cultural determinants of physical activity, or, as we say in public health, to focus on the causes of the causes. In other words, the social and cultural determinants of physical activity. Whilst conceptualizing physical activity as a social practice necessitates embracing complexity and abandoning linear monocausal explanations such as those relating to personal motivation, it does at the same time offer up a number of theoretical entry points for thinking about the creation of favourable circumstances for physical activity and sports participation. Because economic development tends to give rise to societies that are increasingly urbanized, it is estimated that 80% of people will live in cities by 2030, and a labour market characterized by sedentary jobs. The integration of physical activity into everyday lives has become a priority. Urban planning, for example, to facilitate cycling, walking and running alongside the incorporation of green spaces has been identified as an important practical strategy that involves the combined efforts of many sectors. I will try and finish quite quickly. But we need to go beyond that kind of thinking. The analysis presented in my paper indicates that developing physically active population requires state actions that go far beyond sports policy or even, for that matter, the promotion of public health per se. Although urban planning is a tangible, practical way of thinking about how to create a supportive social and physical context for physical activity, if population norms are to improve, attention needs to be given to the wider social, political, economic and cultural determinants, especially with regard to levels of equality and the position of women in society. In this regard, then, what light, if any, might developments in physical activity and sport in countries such as Norway and other Nordic states throw upon the creation of favourable circumstances for enabling physical habitual activity? The answer seems to be that the economic and social features of the Nordic countries go a long way towards explaining the higher levels of physical activity, including sport. Thus, countries like Norway are not true comparators for countries such as Malaysia. There may be, in other words, little to be learned about creating favourable conditions for enhancing levels of physical activity, beyond, that is, lessons regarding the fundamental benefits of reducing socioeconomic and gender inequalities. Perhaps the most obvious lesson is, therefore, that the key to improving levels of physical activity is likely to lie primarily within the orbit of more contentious and politically demanding economic and social policies than physical activity or even health promotion policies per se. By the same token, it is likely to be the case that greater socioeconomic inequalities in countries beyond Scandinavia that make the latter quite unrealistic benchmarks for elsewhere. Equally, it is highly likely that the expected effects, if these are not entirely spurious, of processes such as school physical education, as well as developments such as lengthened education, will only operate successfully on physical activity participation amid other favourable factors, socioeconomic, structural determinants, for example. Speaking specifically in relation to gender equality, Green et al. Argue that if countries are prepared to adopt policies aimed at achieving more egalitarian socioeconomic conditions, then physically active cultures and populations may over time emerge. This remains, however, rather a large if. Thank you. I'm sorry if I went over time.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. And I totally agree. And with you when you raise the structural factors, the socioeconomics, the cultural factors, when we are looking at people's, citizens, residents, individuals' possibilities to be physically active, to participate in sport in different countries and cultures. And I think that now the pandemic, at least here in Finland, even proves the point more strongly that it appears that for people, for individuals who have the cultural capital, who have the social capital to engage, to be able to engage in sport and physical activity, those are the individuals who have been able to customize their physical activities even during these challenging times. So it's very important that we, especially coming from the Nordic countries where a lot of the things are very well, it's very important that we share these practices and this knowledge also to other parts of the world. Now, considering the time, we are a little over time. I'm proposing that we will move on in the program, but I'm also happy to tell everyone that if you have any questions to Miranda later on, and of course to Aurilie in the upcoming presentation, feel free to write your questions to the chat, because that's also one of the ways that we can sort of communicate and yeah. So I suppose it's time to give the floor to Aurilie, a friend, colleague. Wonderful to have you also in this session, and yes, let's move on in the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this World Conference on Exercise Medicine. I'm happy today, and I thank the organizer for inviting me to present a keynote speech on building health-promoting sports club strategies and key leverage. I'm Aurilie van Hoye from the University of Lorraine. I'm also the co-leader of the Sports Club for Health working group of the Health Enhancing Physical Activity Network of the World Health Organization. And I'm happy today to talk with you about how far can we support sports club to promote health and encourage their health promotion efforts. My presentation will be structured around 4 key parts. The first one will be more to introduce you a little bit more on the theoretical tenets of the approach, meaning what's the theoretical model, where does it come from, and how can we understand this health promoting sports club. The second part will be focused on how to measure it and how we developed a specific measurement tool for health promoting sports club and what it entails. A third part will be on sports clubs' need on health promotion. So we study a little bit about what do sports clubs needs to become health promoting settings, meaning how we can help, but also how we can develop intervention to support the investment in this health promotion. And the last part will be more on strategies and intervention components, really on the concretely on how to do it and how we started from a theoretical model to build an intervention framework for sports club to apply. So my point will be a presentation around these 4 things before a general conclusion. First, I will speak about the theoretical tenets and where does it come from and what is the health promoting sports club approach. The health promoting sports club approach is a concept that emerged in the 2000, especially from a Finnish team and from Finnish colleagues that have built and started to identify indicators for health promoting sports club. This model is based on the socio-ecological approach and the setting-based approach, which have been applied in different settings. So meaning this is a model where we have a lot of factors implicated in individual health and well-being, and these factors comes from the individual in itself with its psychological factors, but also biological and genetical factors. And then we have also factors coming from his surrounding and direct environment, like his parents, like his friends, like his transportation, like his works or school, like the way he interact in the community. And that individual is also within a specific system with specific law, regulation, also specific culture, and this system has also an influence on individual choices, and especially on individual health and the way he behaves in regard to physical activity, for example. So this socio-ecological approach is more on how do all these factors interact to support behavioral change, but also to support individual engagement into different healthy behavior. So the point about this setting-based approach is that we consider that individual health is a collective responsibility. So meaning it's not an individual that make his choice solely and alone, but he will make his choice depending on where he play, where he work, where he love, where he learn, and also added recently where he shop. Because all these places can be more or less supporting in regard to their health or in regard to their physical activity. Depending on the way they are organized and the way they can support these healthy behaviors. So meaning the health promoting sports club is to find a way of making the sports club more supportive to participants' health, and not only to contribute to physical activity, but also to care for their social, mental, psychological, and physical health. So this is going beyond the role of sports club that is firstly providing physical activity, might be for leisure or might be for competition. The way we present the health promoting sports club is principally organized in the sense that we have 3 different levels that are implicated in developing health promotion in sports club. We have what we call the macro level, which is the sports club itself, with its board making his decision and existing as an organization. And then we have the meso level, which is more the guidance and support given to coach and staff by sports club management and directors. So meaning each individual managers in sports club can play a specific role in the way he care or he doesn't care for health promotion. And then we have the micro level, which is more really the health promotion activities of coaches towards participants' health. So what they are doing during training and competition. And the way we have organized the model is that for each of these 3 levels, we have 4 types of determinants that are in play and that have an important role. One type is really the organizational determinants, which are more surrounding on the orientation of the sports club, on the policies, on the guidelines, on the rule that the sports club is providing to managers, and also how the managers can guide sports coach towards health promotion. So it's really policies and education and hiring practice. We have the social determinants, which is more focused on the value, on the vision, and the communication of sports club about how far is health promotion important and how far is it embedded in sports club philosophy. We have environmental determinants, which is more on the built surrounding and the way infrastructure are used, are also welcoming and friendly and health supportive in terms of pollution of environment and so on. And finally, the economic determinants, which is the human and financial resources that the sports club can invest in health promotion at each level. Might be getting human resources from volunteers, or it might be also getting financial resources, money or specific material, guidelines or booklet or whatever to promote health. So meaning at the sports club, you have then these 3 levels that are implicated to make sports participants as the better it could be, and playing with these types of determinants. What are the minimum requirements to define a health promoting sports club? So when we talk about health promoting sports club, what is it they need to develop to be recognized as such? The first thing is that it is to go beyond the promotion of one behavior. So promoting, I don't know, physical activity only, or promoting tobacco-free environment, or promoting drug-free environment. So meaning it's just not focusing on one behavior, it's getting a health promoting view, meaning that in each decision that you take, you consider both coach and managers, but also sports participants' health. Might be in policy, but it might be in other type of decision process. So meaning you change your glasses in the way you see a sports club decision making process to really try to see the impact on health when you take decision. The second point is that to get this health promoting sports club, you need to implicate all the level of sports club and develop a participative approach, not only by getting a top-down process, but also a bottom-up process where within different commission or within different within the board, you can include participants, parents, but also coach, managers, volunteers, both in action and in decision-making process. So meaning you will be better rooted in also participants' needs, and your action will be better adapted also to the specific public. What's also important if you want to develop a health promoting sports club is to make a partnership with other organizations and within the community where you are. So meaning a sports club that is health promoting is a sports club that wants to invest in society and that is aware of the role he can play within society. Might be on social dimension like citizenship, like integration, might be on physical dimension also to keep people healthy, especially in regard to physical activity, might be on psychological dimension about the well-being that people can, and the enjoyment that people can have also by participating in sports club. So meaning this is important that sports club play a role in the community and that they make link with the community and with external partner, which can be also the place to get resources for the action. What is also important is that health promoting sports club is more a process. So it's not a result itself, it's really a process that is continuous and that is getting small step forward. So meaning every single action or every small step is to be recorded and to be valued. But we need to build on these small steps and probably on this single event to get to a full project. What is also important finally is to base action on needs, policies, and consider this is never a one-size-fits-all. So meaning what I'm going to say here is that we have thought about an intervention framework that could be applied to sports club, but depending on the sports club's need and depending on how far he is in the health promoting process, he might invest in one of the other strategies or in one or other intervention components, depending on how far he wants to bring his club forward. So it's like a never-ending story that needs to be rooted, especially in the way sports club has specific needs and specific vision of what he wants to achieve through a health promotion. Why is health promoting in sports club needed? What we saw from different studies in the last year is that it's beneficial for sports club, it's beneficial for managers and coach, and for participants. In regard to the club, what we saw is that we have an increase in participation rates. We have a decrease in dropout intention. We have also a better recognition of sports club role at the local level, so meaning this rootedness with community. Broader diversity also of activity, attracting different participants and enlarging also the potential reach of the sports club. We have higher sports performance through improved health management, especially in regard to hydration or in regard to injury prevention or other behavior that are more related to performance. For managers and coach, what is also interesting is that we increase the motivation to invest within the club. We increase the satisfaction also and the involvement of volunteers within the club. We increase the role clarity also that volunteers know how and why they invest in sports club. So meaning these are all improvements that help managers and coaches to invest themselves into the process and stay also and make the environment more stable for sports club, because we know that especially in Europe in specific sports we have for coach from one season to the other almost 40% of coaches leaving their position. So meaning if every year there is a new training to put in place in regard to health promotion, then there is again a never-ending process and a process to be renewed, and a lot of resources could be saved with these people being stable and providing their expertise within their sports club. And for sports participants also, we saw that there is a higher level of physical activity, there is a healthier lifestyle, there is an association with mental and social well-being, also lower dropout intention. So many benefits of staying and being involved in a health promoting sports club rather than in a classic sports club. What I'm going to present here, it's more about a project that has led to the creation of an intervention, or at least the first step of this process. Before starting this process, what we have done with the working group of the HEPA network is to work on a systematic mapping review to see and to identify a little bit how health promoting sports club was applied to sports club and what we could find out. So we have searched for 7 different databases for English peer review article, including health promotion intervention in sports club. So one keyword was really within sports club, and the other keywords was intervention, but understood in a broad sense. We included 58 studies encompassing 33 unique interventions. You have the link and the reference there if you want to see the article. What we identify is different things. First, that most research was in Australia and European culture and sports systems, so meaning we had almost no study in Africa, in Asia, or in South America. So meaning that there is a gap there about the health promoting sports club approach and how it could be applied in this region of the world. The second thing is that the intervention were principally tested on male playing team sports. So meaning this is not representative of the different types of sports participants. Third, most study focused on sports participants, but not on specific population or implicating different levels of the sports club. So meaning there is only one level targeted and not the full approach. Intervention focus on single behavior rather than overall setting-based approach. So it's always one behavior that is targeted. And the study design were principally descriptive, so without validated measurement and rigorous also evaluation of pre and post-intervention. What is interesting is that there is an increasing amount of studies in the field, and there is more and more intervention in the field, but still lacking of rootedness within the setting-based approach. And again, this approach was misunderstood and was poorly applied by the few studies that used it. So there is really an effort to be done by researchers and also by people within sports club or stakeholders to invest in the setting-based approach. So therefore, we have built a process project that started with this systematic mapping review, and then we wanted to better define what health promoting sports club was and how to measure it. So we did a Delphi study about the different dimensions, but also the different items that we could use to measure health promotion, which led to the validation of a questionnaire. I will come back to that a little bit later. Then we work with the different groups on intervention planning framework to develop a specific intervention theory. We also use concept mapping to identify sports clubs' need, and we will in the future work on capitalization of experience of exemplar sports club in France to see a little bit what is done and how far they can implement health promotion, what are their tricks and their strategies. And finally, the project will end next year with an intervention mapping showing all the steps and the way we have built the intervention. First part on health promoting sports club measurement. What we did and what we wanted is to create a measurement tool that we call the e-process. The background is that we had no measurement for health promotion perception in sports club at the 3 different levels. There were studies looking at that at only sports club level. There were some study only at sport participants level, but there was nothing on the 3 level at the same time, and there was no questionnaire rooted into theoretical objective, in theoretical model, sorry. So meaning we wanted to develop a measurement tool that is rooted within this health promoting sports club model. So we use items from different Delphi study and partly validated questionnaire. And we had 3 online ones, including 69 international experts from 13 countries participating to the process, identifying with us the different questions. So you can look at the reference and at the paper if you want to have more information about the items and their content. So they were specifically designed by determinants by level. After having found out this questionnaire and drafted this questionnaire, we have validated it in French with different steps. So we have made a translation by a panel of 9 experts. Then we ensure 38 interviews to look at items understanding and to get the better quality we could get. And then we collected data on 75 managers, 79 coach, and 276 sports participants to look at items analysis, confirmatory factual analysis, and predictive validity. What we found out is that the translation process has been undertaken in 3 months during 4 or 3 hours meeting by this committee. The interview helped to modify some items and adapt the vocabulary, especially health promotion itself was difficult to understand. There were a few missing data for managers and coach, but up to 26% for sports participants. We had few floor effects, but many ceiling effects, so meaning the items were highly weighted. What we saw also is health promotion in general cannot be measured and grabbed as a concept in the sports environment, but we get good fit in this for the determinants, especially organizational, social, and economic. It's a little bit more difficult for an environmental dimension. And we had a good predictive validity with a relationship with self-rated sports performance, negative relationship with dropout intention, and positive relationship with quality of life, meaning again we show that this the health promoting sports club can have positive effect both on coach, managers, and sports participants. So these user guide and questionnaire are available on request. If you want, you can contact me and you can get access to this questionnaire and also the user guide to disseminate it. Working on going further on strategy and intervention, we have created an intervention framework with the objective of identify strategies and intervention components and classify them into health promoting sports club model. This was an iterative qualitative methods where we had a 1-day focus group with 3 different groups, one of master students in physical activity, one with French experts, and one with Swedish experts, as we wanted to compare also cross-country and cross-culturally how far they did agree. The paper is also published in Health Promotion International, so you can have a look. And we have compared the different agreement, disagreement between the group to finalize the strategies and intervention components categorization. And we ended up with 14 strategies related to different intervention components that we can also develop a little bit more if you want more information on them. We have worked then on matching the theoretical model of the health promoting sports club with the strategies to get a specific model that tell us which strategy and which intervention component can be applied at which level. So helping to structure also and to target also specific population for the different intervention component we wanted to apply within the sports club. So we got a complex model that helped to refine a little bit the health promoting sports club intervention framework. We also looked at the needs of sports club to a concept mapping study. What is concept mapping? It's a platform that helps us to select people and invite them to participate to 3 different activities. First, they generate ID on a specific question. Second, they sort them into piles that make sense for them. And third, they can weight them on, and we ask them to weight them on importance and feasibility. So we wanted here that the intervention was also acceptable and usable by sports club and that it could answer their needs. So we needed to identify how far they need support from us. What we found out after 45 people answering to this process is that there were 9 different clusters of needs that we identify. There are some that are quite usual, like stakeholders training courses, like development of tools for health promotion, like communication dissemination. But they make difference between getting communication tools and getting people communicating and getting communication strategies. There was a lot also about diagnostic and financing, a lot about advocacy and awareness and mobilization of external people, some part about policies and methods, and also about sharing and networking. So different ideas that made sense, but that were a little bit unexpected in regard especially to advocacy and also to how far we need to implicate also the surrounding of the sports club. What we found out also, if we look at the results in regard to feasibility and importance, is that we have 34 statements that were rated as feasible and important. And these statements were then integrated into the intervention framework. So meaning by getting this sports club need study, we got a new theoretical model by adding 3 different levels, which are sports federation, public health actors, and government authorities, and where we define again the economic, environmental, organizational, and social determinants. And then we move forwards back to 13 strategies and 69 intervention components that were also shared with this different level and determinants, again, to be able to apply this intervention theory. So just a final discussion about this process, and that is coming slowly to the end with the building of a massive online courses that will be available probably in a year, but also about sports club specific intervention that we are going to test within the 3 next year. Some key point about this approach. The first thing is that health promoting sports club is a complex but not complicated concept. So meaning there are many levels, many determinants, and this needs time to be explained. But it can be easily understood if we take time and understand the structure of the setting-based approach. The second thing is that it's feasible in terms of sports clubs need, in terms of intervention theory, and the approach can support performance, long-term involvement in sports, self-reported quality of life. So meaning it can really fulfill the way sports club can support the society and play this societal role that is expected from them. And the last one is really a required approach for sports club to embrace this role, but also the sports system in some country has come to the need of renewing themselves in regard to the way it's organized. And this could be a way to reorganize sports club, especially in France, where the competitive parts of sports club have a decrease in license and number of sports participants. And meaning there could be other way, and health promoting sports club could be a way to bring diversity in the public and also open new way of finding resources for sports club to fully develop. So I want to thank you for listening to my presentation. I want also to thank the team that worked with me, Stacy Johnson, Fabienne Lemonnier, Florence Rostand, Benjamin Tessier, and Al Wilmer, who have helped me to run this project and prepare this presentation.
And I'm available for question if you want, if there are any. We are now trying to implement the model and test it. This year is dedicated to really creating the different components of the intervention, meaning we have now the theory and we try to put it into practice. So in other words, we are developing at the moment the content and making videos for the online massive courses to be able to disseminate the approach. And beside of that, we have a working group with different stakeholders of sports club who are working with us to see how we can help sports club to really implement this process to a 4 months training. So the objective is as this year with the COVID pandemic situation, we could not go into sports club and test it directly. So we hope to be able to do that next year. And to have a first pilot that we can then widespread and that we want to test also at European level, at least in the 5 next years. So meaning it's really a work in progress, and now we have started with trying to reframe the model and its measurement, but also how it could be applied. And now our work is on building the tools for dissemination, lobbying, and make people understand what it is and how important it is also, and how sports club can really help the society, and not only on physical activity, but also on general health, and also economic and social giving to the society and communities. What we wanted or what we want to do about the training is to let sports club decide who is going to run the project. So what we know from the setting-based approach is what is important in regard to getting this participative approach into sports club is that the people has to have leadership. So it could be a manager of the sports club. It could also be a coach who wants to develop something, but it could be also a parent or a specific sport participant who wants to make a specific event or wants to develop something with the club. So from my point of view, this is not a question of the position that the people has in the sports club. This is more a question of how far can this people or bring the collective approach within the sports club. So meaning this is more a question of social skills, leadership, and how far you can be a role model and play a role within the sports club and have people participating with you. And often this is an empowerment process. So meaning it starts small with one event or with one people looking at it. And then in the next season, there is other people joining and widespreading the approach of the first. So it's really taking time, as we know in health promotion, so up to 3 seasons. But it's quite interesting to see that it's not only a top-down approach with manager just trying to put something in place, but also sports participant and coach who comes with bottom-up approach and quite interesting ideas.
Is there any other further questions? I take over as a chairperson from Dr. Hanna because you have to leave and all that. Any further question from the floor? If not, then I would like to say thank you very much to, I don't know how to spell your name, Dr. Aurilie. Yeah?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
For your wonderful presentation, and then I learned something new because of the talking about a sport club. Because in Malaysia, it's like very difficult to build a sport club in Malaysia, except European country and maybe American country and all that, because they are very active in terms of sport club. And then moreover, you are talking about sport club to promoting health is very important. Yeah. All right. With that, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Have a good day. So we're going to move on to the next presenter. Yep. Thank you very much. And then I would like to invite next presenter is actually Dr. Vanitha from Malaysia. So without further ado, I think I would like to just invite Dr. Vanitha to present your papers. Dr. Vanitha, please. The floor.
Good afternoon and selamat petang from Putrajaya, Malaysia. I'm Dr. Vanitha Subramaniam, the Principal Assistant Director attached to the Health Education Division from Ministry of Health Malaysia. I have been practiced in health promotion field for the past 18 years, and I have been planning and disseminating health education or health promoting activities at the community level, the public campaigns, and also intervention at community level, and also policy development that targeted to health well-being of a people or individual. And being a sociology myself, I believe that someone act upon the surroundings of an environment that the person lives in, and also the societal supports, and also the belief that the person uphold, and these factors must be integrated into our behavioral intervention that we targeted to the community levels. For today's session, I'll be talking about wellness hubs, which is also a community center that operated throughout Malaysia by Ministry of Health Malaysia to empower the community to take actions or take ownership of the health outcomes. And for today's focus, I'll be talking how Wellness Hub is very important in empowering the community who is economically underprivileged. For today's session, I'll be starting with the introductions of health risk factor owing to lifestyle among Malaysians, and will be going on and talking about the Wellness Hub, the community centers and its services, and also the empowering of community and why it is important to empower the underprivileged community, and we'll be talking about the way forward of Wellness Hub in Malaysia. Before I going on with my presentation, I would like to seek your attentions on some of keywords that I'll be using throughout my presentation. And the first keyword is health risk factors. Health risk factors is the attributes that influence someone to develop or increase their opportunities or chances to develop a health disorders or a disease. Behavioral health risks are modifiable, such as sedentary lifestyles, physically inactive, and tobacco use, and so on. And also Wellness Hub. Wellness Hub, as I mentioned earlier, is a community center that provides services for the community at local level to adopt healthy lifestyle and improve their well-being. And the other key term that I'll be using is B40 and M40, which is a classification of our population in Malaysia according to household income. In 2019, Malaysian government has classified our population into 3 groups, and B40 means bottom level household income, which comprised of the terms B40, which comprises of 40% of Malaysian population, and M40 is middle household income population, which comprises another 40% of population, which the terms M40. And T40 comprises of top level in household income, which comprises the last 20% of Malaysian population. Okay, let's move on the health risk factors among Malaysians. In general, health risk factors among Malaysians is on the rise. For example, 1 in 3 Malaysian adults is overweight, and 1 in 5 Malaysian adults is obese. And half of Malaysians has abdominal obesity, and for surprisingly, more females has abdominal obesity compared to the men. And 1 in 4 adults in Malaysia is not active. Well, moving on to the next slides, there is a slides that shows about Malaysian in sports, exercise and recreational activity. In a survey that conducted by Ministry of Youth and Sports Malaysians found that Malaysians were moderately active in terms of their sports, exercise and recreational activity. And from this pie chart, you could see that 30.4% of Malaysian adults do not participate in any sports, exercise and recreational activities. And more on health risk factors, whereby 1 in 5 adults in Malaysia are current smoker, and 1 in 6 adult Malaysians are diabetic, and 1 in 6 Malaysians is hypertensive. Also, 1 in 3 adults in Malaysia has hypercholesterol. Let's look into the dietary patterns among Malaysian adults. 1 in 2 Malaysian adults have high intake of sodium, and 1 in 2 has high intake of fat, and almost 5% of Malaysian has low intake of fruits and vegetables, and 76% of Malaysians has low intake of milk and dietary products. Therefore, the increase in health risk behaviors warrant a strong need for community empowerment. And today's I'll be talking about community empowerment through Wellness Hub in Malaysia. An increase of health risk behavior owing to unhealthy lifestyle among Malaysian adults also increased the utilizations of health services in public sector from 48.7% in 2011 to 60% in 2015. This shows that more and more Malaysians are seeking treatment in clinics and hospitals, rather looking for opportunity to practice healthy lifestyle to reduce their health risk behaviors. And also, the other important element for community empowerment is low health literacy. 1 in 3 Malaysian adults has low literacy. And health literacy is an important element in cognitive and social skills where help or motivates an individuals to seek for information on health and understand the information and take informed actions for themselves and others. Let's see why empowerment of economically underprivileged community is important. Let's look at the phenomena among Malaysians. The higher proportion of low health literacy level are among rural dwellers and also those with low education and low income group, which is B40. And the prevalence of depression was significantly higher among rural areas at 3.6% compared to their counterparts from urban areas, which is 1.9%. Also, higher prevalence reported higher among the low income, which is B40. And only 5% of Malaysians eat enough fruits and vegetables among low income and middle income group. And 56.9% of Malaysians from middle income, which is M40, are overweight and obese. These figures shows the importance of having behavioral interventions among those who are underprivileged, economically underprivileged populations in Malaysia. So what is community empowerment? Community empowerment is a process to enabling communities to increase control over their lives. And based on available literature review, there is a strong evidence that suggests 5 key areas where empowerment strategies or interventions had improved individual health-related outcomes. Firstly, through improved self-efficacy and self-esteem by having community participation. And secondly, it improved the community's sense of control whereby when a participation in group that shares same interests can improve the sense of personal control by having renegotiation power in order to gain more control. And also it increased the knowledge and awareness of community, and thus it induced a behavior change. And also to have a greater sense of community and social support, where an individual do have better chance in achieving their health goals if they can participate with other community or individual who have affected by same issues or some in similar circumstances. For example, a person who in a weight loss program could share with the same experience they encounter, and it can be the experience by the others who will talk together and find solutions for the barrier that they face. So I have been talking about Wellness Hub. And what is the definition of Wellness Hub in Malaysia? Wellness Hub is an infrastructure that provides health promotion services, which is one-stop community center to the local community as one of the strategies to encouraging the community to adopt healthy lifestyle and improve their well-being. It is run by a dedicated team or a team set up by the Health District Office and participated by community leaders and volunteers. So community center involves investment in feasible infrastructure and planning initiatives with the aim of producing long-lasting benefit for the community. It also uses strategies as face-to-face counseling, instructions and cognitive behavior strategies, but in a community facilities. It includes programs that use some form of community action, often including a coalition of advocacy group, which basically benefited by the group leaders and also community by themselves to make positive changes to the physical environment. So where are the Wellness Hub are located? As you look at this slide, the Wellness Hub located throughout all the states in Peninsular Malaysia and East Malaysia. At the moment, we have about 27 Wellness Hubs that providing services to the local community. And the number definitely need to grow to cater the needs of Malaysians to adopt healthy lifestyle and make healthy lifestyle as part of their life. So most of the Wellness Hub is located in rural area, which is 54%, and among them 30% in clinical compounds and 33% in owned buildings and 30% outside of health premises. The services provided by Wellness Hub is mostly on wellness screening, consultation, long-term intervention and activities, and also outreach. The screening that provided by Wellness Hub is self-health risk assessment, whereby the community can walk into the Wellness Hub to assess the health risk that posed by an individual. The health risk assessment comprises of BMI screening, body fat, body composition, body blood pressure, and also physical activity with International Physical Activity Questionnaire, and also to assess the smoking addiction by having a vagostrom test. The screening process also done for the fitness test, which comprises of 4 activities, where is partial curl-up test, push-up test, and also YMCA 3 minutes test and sit-up and reach test. The Wellness Hub also providing consultations on quit smoking, healthy eating, physical activity, and also exercise, and teaching the usage of gymnasium and exercise equipment, and also teaching the community to use applications to measure their healthy lifestyle, especially on healthy diet, and also the number of steps that they achieve in a day. On the interventions and activity, the Wellness Hub providing weight loss program, which is for 6 months, called I Fit and Eat Right. In a short term is I Fitter. And also it provides exercise training with personal trainer, and also scheduled exercise and a mass exercise program, and also exercise prescription for some Wellness Hub which been selected, and also providing healthy mind package and relaxation therapy. The Wellness Hub also providing outreach programs where bring some of these services to the community level at malls and with private and public sectors. In the following slides, you can look at some photos of the programs conducted in Wellness Hub, especially for the weight loss program called I Fit and Eat Right, which comprises of 3 aspects, which is structured physical activity, healthy eating, and behavior modification. In the next slide shows the involvement of community in the programs and volunteers who helps to conduct a program. This program runs by the team in Wellness Hub, and also from the community leaders or volunteers who come forward to help together to plan and disseminate physical activities and weight loss program for the community. Well, the number of people who benefited from the services in Wellness Hub from year 2017 and 2019 shown in the next slide. The number of Wellness Hub has been increased from year 2017 from 15 Wellness Hub to 21 Wellness Hub in 2018, and it increased to 24 Wellness Hub in 2019 and 27 in 2020. And also do so the people who benefited from the services. In the following slides, there is a detailed attendance in year 2019, where majority of community who attended are female and among the productive age between 20 and 50 years old. Majority of the community attended is Malay and followed by the Chinese and Indians. In 2020, we can see slight decrease in the number of clients who attended in Wellness Hub due to the pandemic COVID-19. The next slide shows community empowerment in Wellness Hub in the context of proceed and proceed model, which define factors that exert community effects prior to a behavior occurring by increase or decreasing a person or population motivations to undertake a behavior. The activity in Wellness Hub that increase a person motivations are by having behavior modification, to have involvement of family, and to plan and disseminating variety of activity according to group or individual needs, and also to have support applications such as Nutri apps and BookDoc app applications to help a person to count a calorie intake per day and also calorie burned, and also to have to count their steps in a day, and also to have a group challenge and self-risk assessment that helps a person to identify the risk that he has with this health risk assessment, and also to have counseling. To enable the community to attend to the activities in Wellness Hub, the activities are slotted after work or suited a time that suits the community, and also to have greater facilities to help the participants or member of community to utilize, such as mini gym and activity by community, that they've been given ownership to plan and disseminating the activity. And also by having reinforcement by giving the rewards following as a consequences of a behavior, such as showing the increase in fitness level after attending to interventions or physical activity, and also shows a control in RBS, cholesterol and BP level, and acknowledgement for significant weight loss in moratorium, and also award that given to those participants who could lose weight and have a significant weight loss. Lastly, on the regulatory, the Wellness Hub has key performance indicator such as 10% of reduction from initial weight, and also make assessment to the community who participated in certain interventions at the week 12 and week 24, especially for the intervention for weight loss program, and also to have a fitness test. And finally, let's look at the way forward for Wellness Hub. There must be a multi-agency collaboration to strengthen multi-agency support for the community and underprivileged group, and also to have best practices or success stories and strategies to be used in Wellness Hub. And for the educational and promotional programs, the program must be appealing to attract community and involve community leaders, NGO and private sectors. And also it's very important to change mindset of community by promoting the benefit and importance of healthy lifestyle. Also to have a public and private partnership, that developing partnership within the community and also industrial players. Also to have exercise prescription for the patient with pre-risk, and also to incentivizing the public to be or to adopt a healthy lifestyle, and also to have a proper act and regulation whereby the policy makers should focus on prevention rather than treatment, and also to have enforcement to create safe environment. By having all those activities and also regulation, that will help Malaysians population to have a better health in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Vanitha. So that we would like to open the question and answer session. So Dr. Vanitha is here. So any question, please post into the chat box so that she can answer directly to you. Yeah, please. Any question on the floor? While waiting for the question, Dr. Vanitha, so that I think I would like to say thank you very much for a very informative and a wonderful presentation. When you talk about wellness hub, I think a lot of people still don't know what is wellness hub. At least today that you share the information in Malaysia, even moreover, you talk about the striking me, the very important thing is actually empower the community. That term is really hit to the point that everybody should do that. Not only Ministry of Health, I think other Ministry of Youth and Sports also. So they work together to actually promoting health in Malaysia. As what you presented, I think one out of Malaysia or something like that, out of 5 Malaysia are obese or something like that. Yeah. So any other question that from the floor that can you see the chat box there? Any question? Kindly check your question chat box. Yeah, there are questions. Please. Yeah, but there's no question there. Dr. Vanitha, can you see any question from the chat box? We can't hear you. We can't hear you. No audio. Still no audio. I still can't hear. Okay, all the participants, any question that send into the chat box so that Dr. Vanitha can answer you, or you need any clarification? Yeah. I think Dr. Vanitha, you presented well, so everything is clear, so everybody understand anything. If all the participants still have any further question to clarify, to justify, or whatever things that you still can keep in touch with Dr. Vanitha so that she can actually answer you personally. All right? Is it okay? Dr. Vanitha, are you okay? So, okay, now, I think because we are a little bit delayed now, so that shall we just, I would like to say thank you very much to Dr. Vanitha to share this very informative and this presentation, wonderful. And with that, on behalf of the organizing committee, we'd like to say thank you very much for your session today. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vanitha. So that we are going to move on to next session. Yep. So next session, I'm going to chair as well because Dr. Hanna, the actual chairperson, she got something urgent, so we need to go. So I take over from now. All right. Next presenter, we have this Dr. Hazwanim. I hope that I pronounced your name correct. Okay. Also from Malaysia. So without further ado, I think Dr. Hazwanim, the floor is yours. You can start your presentation now, please. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good day everyone. So first and foremost, I would like to thank the organising committee for the invitation as for me to become a speaker, and also I would like to congratulate the organizer because you managed to do this online webinar conference. Okay, so I'm Dr. Hazwanim Hashim, a family medicine specialist. So I came from a very small town in Kuala Ketil, Baling, Kedah, okay, a very north part of Malaysia. So I will be sharing actually smart partnership program between 3 parties, and my topic today will be a doctor's referral, exercise clinic intervention in non-communicable disease prevention. Okay, right. So for non-Malaysian participants, this is the map of Malaysia. We have peninsular part of Malaysia and East Malaysia. So where is Kedah? Kedah is located up north there, right? And it's also known as the state of paddy fields. So in Kedah also we have Langkawi Island, a very nice island and also a tourist attraction, a world tourist attraction. Okay, so this is my community health clinic, which is located in a small town called Ketil Baling, Kedah. Okay, and this is the MS New Symphony Exercise Clinic at Unishams. Okay, so how the tripartite journey started? So it is actually a collaborative program, so between 3 parties. So the 3 parties are, the first one is Ministry of Health Malaysia, okay, the second one is MS New Symphony Exercise Clinic, and the third one is International Islamic University Sultan Abdul Halim Muazzam Shah. So this university is actually a local state university in Kedah. Okay, so the roles, okay. So MS New Symphony provided exercise therapies which were graduated from Asia College of Exercise and Sports Medicines. So the exercise therapists from ACESM were trained with the aims to control and to treat non-communicable diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, obesity and dyslipidemia through the right dosage of exercise. So the key word here is the right dosage of exercise. So in this tripartite program, MS New Symphony also provided the equipment and the expertise to deliver and train the clients referred to them. Okay, so the role of the university. So the university provides the facility. So the exercise clinic is placed at the ground floor of the medical faculty of Unishams. So the university have a medical faculty. So the ground floor, they provide a building, they provide a gymnasium, and then they also have medical lecturers. So they provide health counselling and consultations for clients on rotational basis. So whenever needed. Okay. So for another party, that is our Ministry of Health Malaysia, my Kuala Ketil Community Health Clinic, so we help to identify clients who have the selected non-communicable disease risk. So throughout this program, we have selected 3 criteria to be referred: the pre-diabetes, pre-hypertension and obesity, and we refer them to exercise clinic for enrollment. Okay, apart from that, okay, we also provide lab services, 6 monthly fasting blood sugar for clients throughout enrollment. So after 6 months, the clients will be referred back to us and we will do the fasting blood sugar. So we work hand in hand with the exercise therapists upon getting back reports, referrals and etc. Okay. So the journey started first and foremost, yes, of course, the guidelines. The guidelines and also standard operating procedure development. So this is basically the team for developing the standards operating procedure development, and with the help, of course, with the non-communicable disease division, Ministry of Health Malaysia. Okay, so setting up the gymnasium. So as you can see here, this gymnasium is actually few lecture halls that has been converted and renovated to become a very spacious gymnasium, equipped with a lot of instruments, a lot of equipments, and also very well ventilated, air conditioned. Okay. So there are various equipments basically for cardio training, strength, power and endurance. And there is also room for the exercise therapists to do physical fitness assessment and also to follow up their patients regularly for also consultations, and they will take place in the room. Okay. So on the 5th of August 2019, okay, there is the signing of the Memorandum of Agreement. So upon this date, we started to recruit our patients, start to enroll our patients, and also we start the program. Okay, so how the tripartite program works? Okay, we have selected criteria just now, as I mentioned. We have pre-hypertension, pre-diabetes, and also obesity. We take obesity with the BMI 30 and above. So these criteria, we take the clinical practice guideline of Malaysia as a guide. Okay. You have to remember that the exercise clinic has few entry points. Apart from the patients or clients that we refer from our clinic, we have also walk-in clients. So walk-in clients are from the community, the public, and also the university staffs or university students who walk into the clinic. Right. Okay. We also have exclusion criteria. So those who are found to be pregnant and have a physical or mental disability and were excluded from this program. Okay, and we have to know that this program is non-chargeable, so we don't charge our patients or clients, so it is for free. Okay, so the part of referral from our community health. Okay, what has been existing before is that in Kedah we have pre-existing NCD screening program. So adult age 20 years and above will be screened for diabetes, hypertension, and will undergo regular weight monitoring and referral to dietitian or physiotherapist if detected to be obese or what. But this pre-existing program have also some limitation and also some obstacles or challenges because these are screening program and we detect them not to have the comorbids yet. They are in a condition that is have pre-diabetes or pre-hypertension. So we want to follow them up so that they won't acquire the disease. However, sometimes we feel some difficulty to sustain them because of we have limitation in resources or we have defaulter rate for whatever reason. Okay, with this tripartite program, the clients identified will have sessions, personal sessions with the exercise therapist, just like their own personal coach. So it's a very good and beneficial session for them. Referral process will make easy as doctors can easily explain, give clients information sheet and explain the therapy process. And the client has a systematic way of monitoring patients. And we have a systematic way of monitoring patients, the exercise therapists and also our doctors. Okay, so each client will be given up to 2 to 3 appointment sessions per week with the exercise therapist and aiming to complete and achieve target within 6 to 12 months. They will be discharged back earlier. If let's say about the 9th month they have achieved the target, then they will be discharged from the program. Okay, so an organized system has been established in such ways that doctor will identify the clients via health screening and make health consultation. So clients were briefed by designated team at our clinic about the program. Referral note given and client will go to exercise clinic in Unishams as walk-in. And also there is also walk-in clients from the community or university staff, so students. So upon arrival at the Unishams exercise clinic, there will be assessment done by the exercise therapist. So this exercise therapist will determine whether the client is suitable or not for the enrollment. Okay, so if the clients were suitable for enrollment, client will be given full information about the program, consent will be taken and appointment being set based on the client's suitable time. However, if the clients are found not to be suitable for the enrollment, clients who are not suitable did not fulfill the criteria of the program. For example, these clients have undiagnosed diabetes or undiagnosed hypertension. So they just walk into the clinic, for example, to join the program, and it was noted that he has already pre-existing diabetes. Or in this kind of patient were not suitable for the enrollment. So they will be referred back to the clinic for us to do further investigations, further management, and given options for exercise therapy. For example, an obese patient with pre-existing diabetes, they will be referred to our side and we will do as needful. Okay, so at the exercise clinic Unishams, there will be assessment done. So the assessment and testing protocol includes to assess patient's body fat percentage, and the fitness level. So the fitness level, they call it physical fitness assessment. We'll be using a few equipments and a few tests. So the test includes the 3-minute step-up test, 1-minute push-ups, 1-minute sit-ups, sit and reach, and skill phone measurement. So This how they determine the fitness of the patients, and with all the data and whatever being filled, they will key in all this information in a Dr. Fit software program, which being run by the exercise therapists in Unishams. So they will prescribe customized exercise regime according to patient's conditions. So this customized exercise regime is actually catered individually to each patient. So it will not be the same for each patient. So the exercise therapists will personally train patients. They will review program every 3 to 4 weeks, and then they refer back to doctors 6 monthly. So the exercise therapists will also provide doctors the reports on comparison of body fats and fitness levels monthly. This is done monthly because we of the doctors in charge also, we want to know what is the progress of the patients. So the mechanism is that we establish a mechanism is that from the exercise therapists and our doctors, we have ways of communicating. So via emails and in a specialized report format. So they will inform the doctors what are the next steps. If, for example, the patient is not due for the 6 months appointment, then the doctors noted that, okay, this patient need to be called for some consultations or need to review something, then we will call patient to come earlier. Alright. Okay, so these are the pictures, alright. The skin fold measurement, sit and reach, okay. 1 minute push-up test, 3 minutes step-up test, okay. Blood pressure monitoring and also blood sugar monitoring. The exercise therapists are trained to do that. Okay, so this is the form of assessment report. It will be generated by the software, so you can know the cardio fitness level, the flexibility, the abdominal strength, and then it will come up with the specified customized exercise regime for clients. Okay. And then we can compare from the reports. We can compare because the reports will come up. If let's say the first month, the second month, third month, the report will have comparison. So apart from establishing a very well comprehensive report, it is made easy for the doctors also to compare. We know the progress of our patients. Okay, some patients shows improvement, some patients being stagnant. So we know what and how to cater from that. Okay. So this is the consent form, okay, on the left. Okay, so the consent form will be given by exercise therapy when the client presented at the exercise clinic. Okay, and then the PFA, the physical fitness assessment form, together with some information that the clients need to declare whether they have pre-existing comorbids. They have to declare to the exercise therapist, and then they also need to tell if let's say they have any special precautions during to undergo exercises. Okay, so this form is the result table for monitoring patients. All these forms will be kept in a file. So the exercise therapy also will have each specialized file for each patient. Okay, they will have their own recording. Okay. The next one is the information sheet for clients. So information for clients, actually we have 2 sheets of that. So basically what are the things that being informed to them is the criteria of selection, because they know this is a specialized program. So our program is a pioneer in Malaysia. So we need to tell them that this only the criteria that we select patients. And then we tell them what are the operating hours and where is the location of the clinic and all the rules and regulations. Okay. So this is the referral form. Okay, referral form, we have one doctor's referral to the exercise clinic. So the doctors will use this form, and then they will specify in the form what is the diagnosis of the patient, and then we have also feedback form. The form is used from the exercise therapist to the doctors. So this feedback form, for example, if let's say they have a patient, a client that we referred for pre-hypertension. So the second, third session, for example, it was found that patient has persistently high blood pressure. So something is not right there. Something maybe need to be investigated. So the ET will fill up this feedback form, refer back the patients to us, and then the patient will be seen as soon as possible to work out whatever needed for the patient. So discharge summary also another form that being used, because we need to have a systematic ways of referring patient. As we know, the community health clinic have a lot of programs, a lot of forms being used, and because we don't want the system to be haywire, so discharge summary is used For patients who are being discharged from the clinic for whatever reason, for example, they have completed program, they have achieved their aim of the program, or let's say they defaulted, or they withdraw themselves from the program, or they are not suitable to carry on with the program anymore. Okay. So this is an update. So since August 2019 until September 2020, so we have total recruitment of 104 clients. Okay, we have 7 clients who have already been discharged after 6 to 9 months. Okay, they have successfully 2 obese clients have achieved normal BMI, and we have 5 pre-hypertension clients who achieve normal blood pressure after the sessions. So the total 5 clients all referred back for further investigation and treatment. This is because they are noted to have persistent high blood pressure upon the session. So they need to be further investigated. And surprisingly, because we also have walk-in clients from the university student itself, so 3 of them are very young hypertensive patients are now under our follow-up and investigation. Okay, so from the 104 clients, we minus all the one being discharged, we have 92 clients now. So the pre-hypertension, we have 21, obesity 53, pre-diabetes 7, and pre-hypertension and obesity 11. Okay, from these 92 clients, okay, we follow them up to see whether they have progressed or improvement. So total of ongoing improvement that we seen, because they haven't completed the program. So from 21 pre-hypertension clients, 11 is showing some ongoing improvement. From 20 out of 53, so showing some improvement in obesity management, 5 out of 7 in pre-diabetes, and 8 out of 11 in pre-hypertension and obesity, with a total of 44 out of 92 clients, so which give rise to 47.8%, showing some good improvement. So for a pioneer program like this, I think it's rather proud and successful, because we managed to achieve over nearly half. Okay, but of course with obstacles and improvement, which I will explain later. Okay, we have obstacles and challenges faced. As we all know, 2020 is we have COVID-19 pandemic. So all of us are affected. All areas are affected, all programs are affected, all citizens and countries are affected. So apart from that, we have defaulters. For maybe because of the time factor, logistic reasons, okay, family commitments, and unable to sustain changes in behavior. Sometimes because they need to sustain the behavior of change, lifestyle modifications, dietary modifications and all, then they are unable to sustain that. So we have some defaulters also. Okay, and pandemic worldwide. So we are much affected when movement control order period comes. So during movement control order, the gymnasium have to be closed. The citizens everybody have to stay safe, stay at home. So we have total of 4 to 5 months gym closure to ensure client safety. So this disrupted cycle or disrupted moment also affects the results that I've shown just now, because we see that from the improvement, some of them has rebound back. So we need to cater to all those things, because we just started in August 2019. So somehow 2020 we face challenges, so we have to take into consideration. Okay. So also we have clients who have lack of motivation due to disrupted cycles and also disrupted sessions of appointments. So they need to reschedule all these appointments and all. And for us, our health clinics, we sometimes face limited manpower due to pandemic commitments, because all the non-urgent program need to be postponed. So we are unable to proceed with new referrals. So somehow the figures there has been remained for quite some time. But however, we really hope that this pandemic COVID will be over soon, so that we can start off again. We can push for the program to be more successful. Okay, so for the post-COVID, for the move after we have to make some rearrangement also at the gymnasium, because pre-pandemic COVID-19, so for example, the gymnasium can cater up to 15 clients at one time. So some of the standard operating procedures need to be changed. So after the changes, from 15 clients, 3 clients only allowed to be at the gymnasium. So you can see from the pictures, the upper pictures is all the part before the pandemic COVID-19 occurs, and the one below are the one recently we reopened the gymnasium. So with limitations, but somehow we managed to carry on with the program, and still the clients keep on coming. Okay. All right, so I think that's about that. Okay, thank you so much for listening to our presentation. So basically, we are able to update if the program being more successful in future. Thank you very much for listening.
Information about the partnership. Smart partnership is the wonderful things that we need to move on in terms of promoting healthy citizens in Malaysia, especially in Malaysia. Yes. I think this smart partnership have been created a new line in terms of promoting, and then created a more job and all that kind of things. I think it's a good move. So with that, I think we would like to open the floor for any question then for Dr. Hazwanim.
I think there's question now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, can. Okay, the first question, what is the difference between exercise therapies and physical therapies? I presume the physical therapist is our physiotherapist. So for the exercise therapies, it's actually a new. In Ministry of Health Malaysia itself, we don't have a post for exercise therapists actually. So it's a new program which the exercise therapists graduated from Asia College of Exercise and Sports Medicine, okay, which is ACESM. The exercise therapist actually underwent a 3-year diploma program, okay, specifically for exercise prescription. So it's different from our physiotherapists, which cater for different areas, which is already established in Malaysia. Okay, I move on to next question. Control of participant nutrition intake. Yes, actually, nutrition intake is very crucial in this. I mean, to sustain a program, it's not purely physical activity. It's also nutrition intake. But we are still at the initial phase of the program. The second phase of the program, actually, the exercise therapists will include the nutrition counseling for the participants as well. But I bet they are doing the same. They are doing it concurrently with the physical sessions with the patients as well. So that's how we can see that certain patients or certain clients showed some improvement. Okay. Is there any plan to extend the clinic branches? I guess this should be answered by the CEO of Asia College MS New Symphony. But yes, they are planning to extend the clinic branches in other states. But actually, before I involved in this tripartite program, there are actually MS New Symphony exercise clinics. There are a lot of branches in Malaysia actually, but they cater for private participants. There are few branches in Bukit Jalil, KL, Langkawi. So I think you can Google it from the website. There are many. There are a lot of participants already involved in MS New Symphony exercise clinic. I guess the wellness hub question is also there. Maybe I can answer on behalf of Dr. Vanitha. Yes, accessible for every Malaysian, but not every state have a wellness hub. Not every district have a wellness hub. You can also Google it in the website or Ministry of Health Malaysia website, or in Dr. Vanitha's slide just now. She pointed out where are the district or which are the areas which have wellness hub.
I think Dr. These are the point that we need to add in. Actually, it's not only wellness hub. There's one thing that they're promoting health in terms of in Malaysia. I think also this is the exercise clinic. Also another thing is actually prevention is always better than cure. Am I right? So that we spend a lot of money in terms of curing all this NCD and all that. So that I think this is a good move in terms of, I think Malaysia are doing in the right track. Yeah. So if no further question, I would like to say thank you very much for your wonderful presentation and also very informative kind of sharing. I think more and more this private sector and government sector will work together and to promote health in Malaysia.
Thank you so much also, Dr. Lim.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. All right. Next up, since we already listened to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 presenter all the time, we sit down and that. And then now I'm going to present to you in terms of like, this workshop. So I hope that the technician is ready with my presentation because it's pre-recorded so that I'll just go on. Yeah. So can the technician just put in my presentation on the 360 titanium core strength exercise so that everybody can actually do it. If you are free now by doing that, please. Yeah.
Good day to all the participants of the World Conference on Exercise Medicine. Welcome to my workshop. And I guarantee you this workshop will bring you something good and actually easy for you to do. And please make sure that you carry out. So before I go on, my students all here will be participants who will be showing you the workshop and then what they're going to do and all this. So the workshop of this is actually exercise to strengthen your core strength. So the title of today is actually 360-degree titanium core strength exercises. Actually, we are the one actually registered it, and then this workshop is to share with everyone. All right. Next, I'm going to talk about the most important thing is the core was described as an anatomical box that consists of 29 pairs of muscles. So it's somewhere around here, and then the figure shows that it's 29 pairs of. So these are the 29 pairs, somewhere around here. Yeah. So there's of course the muscle you don't see that there's a cross border or something like that. Which only, let's say, the petrous major or the oblique will be a cross line, but they will be interrelated as well. So these are the location of the core strength. Like we're going to do today, but these are the areas not many people doing it. So exercise program that aims to strengthen the muscle group, especially on the lumbar pelvic side area, is the deep muscles. It's actually a deep muscles. They are responsible for stabilizing the spine and also done with the athlete with their own body weight is called core strength. So today I'm going to actually, you no need to buy any equipments or any other things. It's actually from your own body weight. So it's actually, you train your own body weight, it's actually called core strength, core training. So with that, I'm going to talk about the core strength trainings are the effect have been analyzed to many researchers and the result that shows that they help develop athletes, example like motor skill, increasing the balance, ability and prevention of sport injury. These are the important things that we need to know. So that core strength is so important and easy to do it. And that's why we invented these simple things. So research related to the core strength, there are so many. So low back pain is, numbers of the research have been done. And also balance of older adult in prevention fall. And also in terms of men, the sex life. In terms of learning, their children learning. And also the sports performance, there are so many in terms of swimming, in terms of running, in terms of marathon. And then respiratory muscles also, they found that actually people improve their cardiovascular fitness as well when they do. And of course, when you talk about core strength, definitely improve the strength. And then core endurance, that means they can sustain longer in terms of their core. And other than that, there is actually the physical and the physiological features and other things and all. And then these are the things, and of course, BP is a new one. That's why I got the grant from MonSpace to carry out my, to reduce the blood pressure. This is something like everybody wanted to know, so I published the paper in the Scopus Journal. Yeah. So and many more. So currently I'm doing on the low back pain in Seremban with another group of people. general public. And also I did another study on the balance for the younger, the teenagers, so also using that, so that more and more study should be carried out in terms of. So today I'm going to actually just introduce to you the new invention of core strength exercises, the 360, the name called 360 titanium core strength exercise. I'm going to, because when we created this, 360 means like the person need to turn the whole core, then to make sure that each angle of the core is actually to be trained. Yeah, so we actually compiled it, actually we publish it in the book and all that, so that we register in ISBN, everything, so that to make sure that this book is actually valid, and then go to the library, people can actually find this book. And then also, these are the sequence of 360 titanium core strength exercises. They actually consist of 12 sequence exercises, and then I would suggest to you, if you are new in exercise, please do it. One exercise only last for 10 seconds is more than enough. If you can't even hold for 10 seconds, I would suggest you go down to 5 seconds first, and then slowly, progressively increase to, you can go up to 20 seconds per exercise. These are the 12 exercises. And then these are the things that I can show you, the both elbow prone bridge, and then right elbow lateral bridge, and then both leg supine bridge. And then also, that means we are actually building bridges, all the bridge there. So that you can see that. So later on, after this, we're going to do, the student from this one, we're going to do all the demonstration, and then make sure that you know what to do, even though I show here, but these are the 12 exercises. So with that, I think all the best. Make sure you do it. And then if you are watching now, you can continue, and then with the students here, demonstrator, they will demo to you and follow them for 10 seconds for each exercise. Please enjoy it. Okay, all participants, the demonstrator is going to demo to you the correct methods of doing this 360 titanium core strength. All right, go down. First one, we're going to do double elbow prone bridge. For 10 seconds, we're going to hold. Everybody hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you. Now we're going to turn over to the second exercises. We call it right elbow lateral bridge. Also 10 seconds. Ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now turn your body again. Okay, we are going to follow up. The next one is both leg supine bridge. Ready, and up, hip up, and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Down, turn your body again. To the left, elbow lateral bridge. And up, hand, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Down. Turn your body again. Both hand prone bridge. Look forward and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we move on to the next one. Right hand lateral bridge. Ready, hand up and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, down. Next batch. Now we continue with exercise number 7 with left leg up supine bridge. Come. Left leg up and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, down. And we're going to continue with exercise number 8. Right leg up supine. Ready, up. Leg up. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, down. Now we're going to move on to exercise number 9, left lateral bridge. Left lateral bridge. Okay, ready? And hand up. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, down. And exercise number 10. Alternate left hand and right leg. Okay, up, left hand, right leg. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, down. And we're going to move on to exercise number 11. Alternate right hand and left leg. Okay, left leg and right hand. Ready, up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, down. And the last exercise of the 360-degree titanium core strength exercise is, we call it as a Superman. Hand straight and up. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. With that, we conclude the 360-degree titanium core strength exercise for this workshop and enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Okay, if you all the participants, if you have any question or something like that, just post it in the chat box. Yeah, I'm reading the chat box. If anyone any question, I think it's quite easy to perform. I just want to explain to you that it looks like very easy to perform this exercise, but you try first. I don't comment any other things. I said you try first. So for general health, I would suggest that you progressively, maybe from 5, from 6 or 7 repetition or the duration. And then after that, progressively, you can go up to 20. And then for some athletes, actually, we try that with the start with 30 seconds. They got no problem because I think we did that. Yeah. So with athlete, no problem. Yeah. Would there's a question with back pain? Take about all the access to the 29 muscles strength. back pain, can we do that? Okay, for the back pain, they currently got back pain. I think you can slowly, but don't do it until about 5 seconds, even sometimes 1-2 seconds, or you can try first. If there's severe pain, and then I don't encourage you to continue. If let's say you got this pain, and then for the senior people, I think maybe let's say from my own experience conducting this 360 titanium core strength, I think they can omit with the hand, from the hand straight. There's a question asked, how to assess the 29 pairs of muscle strength individually. I don't think so. We can separately assess the 29 pairs, because core strength is consists of this 29. So it's when you train, they actually train 29 pair in at once. So another question, doctor, can we do more than 10 seconds? Definitely can, no problem. You can. That's why I'm suggesting that 10 seconds for the beginners, or maybe even 5 seconds for the beginners, and then after they progressively increase in until I don't encourage the participant, whichever normal health, they never exercise, never sports or something like that, do more than 20 seconds. I think limit to 20 seconds per exercise good. Any other? We have research paper on this 360. This talk about 360 titanium core strength exercise. That's why just now I presented. We just conclude 2 research paper. There's one 360 on reducing the reduction of the high blood pressure patient. So we published in the Scopus as well. Yes, we did that. And then another one was the this core strength on the balance of teenagers. So we did that in the university lab as well. So that we do so far, that is actually 2 research we are doing on the 360, but they are actually planning to get more. So how to get the 360 titanium book? I think at this moment it's very difficult to provide you a book now, because we are the one actually printed the book. So if you want, you can keep in touch with me. Any other thing? I have lumbar 3. L3, structure few years ago. Is it good for me to do the core exercises? I think yes, but you have to do it slowly. Those got lumbar problem, which have a spine problem, whether can you because sometimes you strengthen your spine and then all the muscles they actually hold better. So you don't have this problem after that. After progressing, increasing the time of exercise, can we add weight? I guess to add weight is actually to those athletes. For general population, I don't think so. You need to add any more weight or something like that. I think your body weight is good enough. So whether you can increasing by the set, from 1 set, 2 set, 3 set, or 4 sets. Even increasing the duration, maybe from the time we are doing is actually maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds. I think should be more than enough. You can sustain that. Of course, now a lot of people have been created a world record, like 2 hours 47 minutes, the latest one. People can sustain, but only one exercise they do is actually pronation. Other than that, I think the exercise program takes how long? How long to complete this? Is just now you can see that I not even presenting about 10 minutes. So that, let's say it depends on how many sets you are doing. Let's say you are doing more sets, that means you take a little bit longer. If not, very short. About 5-10 minutes, you can actually conclude that. So I hope I answered all the questions. And then in the research paper, free for access, yes. That's why the paper you can log into the now in the Scopus, so that you actually can get it easily. You can edit. There are 2 research paper there. So can you suggest the strength exercises for the pandemic for 16 years old boy? I think this is one of the exercise that actually, if they are pandemic, they got no place they cannot go out and all that. This is one of the best time to build up their core strength. So I hope I answer most of the chat box question and all that. If you still have any question, you can look for me, and then in either Facebook, in my Gmail, or anything, you just send a question to me. All right, I think with that, I would like to say thank you very much for all the wonderful questions and all that. And actually, core strength is the basic core. Yeah, so that practice that regardless you are general population or you are the athlete. So of course, the athlete, we have been created another one is actually dynamic one. So I yet to present that next year. I'm starting to present dynamic core strength, so that not is a static or passive core strength. So with that, thank you very much. I hand it over to the secretariat, and I was kind of giving a mandate to close the whole session also. For this session, day number 6, actually the topic is actually exercise and social aspect. So with that, I think I would like to say thank you very much for the wonderful all the presenters. And then have you realized that this day 6 is actually ladies power? All the presenters are ladies. Yeah, so all the presenters are from Dr. Hanna from Finland, Professor Dr. Miranda is from UK, Norway, and Dr. Aurilie is actually from German, and then Dr. Vanitha is actually Malaysia, Dr. Hazwanim is actually Malaysia, and then they are great presenters. So that maybe we just give them a big hand in terms of that. And with that, I think before to conclude this session, what I can say is actually we are having 2 more sessions. It's actually day 7, which is on the 10th of November. So that the theme for the day is actually exercise and injury. Very interesting topic. Make sure that you will be joining again. And the final day of this World Conference of Exercise Medicine 2020, which is in online, is on the 11th November. And the theme or the topic, the focus is actually exercise and aging. So if you want to get more, please. And moreover, to all the participants, please share with your friend and all that. We need more people to listen to this instruction, and then it's free for all. And then I would like to say that invite everyone to register with the website provided. Okay, with that, we conclude this session, and then thank you very much all the participants for your time to attend this day 6 session. Thank you. I hand it over to the organizer. Thank you.